Welcome to the channel, Tribe. In this session of TTT Virtual Meetup, we are having Sowmya Sridharamurthy discussing on benefits of CI practices on test automation.
Awesome. So the next session will be by Sowmya. Great. So welcome, Sowmya. And superly excited for the next session. I'll just do a quick intro of Sowmya before she can get started and hand over the stage to her. Sowmya is an SDET manager at Lytho. She has a vast experience in quality practices across various software solutions, which include ERP, cloud, web apps, and mobile apps testing. She mentors and guides agile development teams in adopting automation, and she's a passionate accessibility adequate. So I put and give the stage to Sowmya uh, on talking about one of the important topics, which is about the benefits of continuous integration. And as we all know, for continuous integration, it's important to have continuous testing. So I'm really excited to have Sowmya share her insights on the best practices and benefits of CI using test automation. So the stage is yours, Sowmya. Welcome.
So hello again. Thanks for having me here. And also I thanks every participant who has joined us on Saturday because it's a weekend and it's a personal time, but still you chose to be here. So I kind of have to thank you. And Ambika, I think it was a wonderful session. I am still hanging around in the freelance concept, and I think it's getting harder for me to come back to mine. But I'll try to do the best. But that was a wonderful session. Thanks, Ambika. So now coming to my topic, which is the CI part of it. Okay, so let me pull up my screen first and then share. There you go. So I am not, something happened. Okay, so I am not a PPT person. So I kind of keep it simple and also respecting everybody's time. I try to cover as much within the time. So today I'll be talking about the CI automation practices. We know now this is a hot topic in the market, and having the continuous integration into a part of your testing routine is a kind of like de facto, and it's like the fundamental aspect. Whether a company is using it or not, in every interview you're asked, do you know how to do automation? Do you know how to set up your own pipeline? And so on and so forth. So the main idea behind this session and why I want this 1 hour of yours is I really want to encourage you, irrespective of whether you're an SDET or a complete manual tester. It is important that you understand the CI and how you can leverage that as a part of the ecosystem in your test project, and then coexist with this so that you don't miss out on the benefits that this can bring in for you, and also as a part of your coding practices in automation. So if you will be wondering, why is that me being a tester, should I be learning about CI? We have the guy in our team who takes care of it, and I really don't have to bother. This is something like a detour for me. And when in interviews as well, when I talk to candidates, they kind of question me back that, what, this is a tester's job. I don't see a need that I have to understand this build pipeline or what deployment does, or what's an environment variable, why tagging is required. So it makes complete no sense. So if you're having one of those questions, just hang in there. Let's try and see if it makes sense, or is it just, we just can ignore. So let's come to that after an hour of this discussion. So before I talk anything, I want to throw some statistics and numbers to you. So if you see the overall global continuous delivery market from 2017, where the forecast was done, up until 2024, it's always been rising. You have not seen a dip anywhere. So this is a global product and it's a global market. There is a continuous growth. They forecasted in 2017 to be 18%, but that's not true. It is much more than that. As in when the year passed by, they can see the growth is happening more than 26% year on year. And this is where the market trend is going. This is where all the digital transformation or the companies who wants to take up the online space would like to move ahead with. no matter the size of the company, DevOps routine is the way that the companies want to embrace. And the second point here is the one which is specifically from the North America market. Why I have chosen, because they have been a front runners in the adoption and implementation of the DevOps way of working. And they have a larger market share, irrespective of the tools that we talk about. They have been growing continuously, catching up to the latest trend as compared to any other part of the geography. How and why this is important? Because we always see there is some need or some push for some certain roles in some geographies. And those roles are not even present in some other geographies. This slide is simply a takeaway for you to understand. It happens because based on how fast the industry is growing, how fast the innovations are coming, and how fast you're catching up, the roles opens up as as quick as possible and grows wider. So that's the whole takeaway should be from this slide. Now, talking about Asia Pacific market specifically, again, it's catching up. EMEA is behind, but APAC first is North America region, and then comes APAC. So where they're growing 25.2% year on year. So you can pretty much expect that towards the Asian countries, this is going to be a big boom in next few years to come by. Now, some more statistics to show is with regards to the enterprise subsegment. Now, according to the study, they have found out that the companies, like a small scale and a mid-sized companies, are the front runners in catching up with the DevOps routine as compared to the larger organization. It's quite understandable, simply because larger organization also comes with the legacy code. They have established customers. They have, multiple challenges that the organization comes with, especially the pool of people and also the skill set. But with the small scale and the startups or the medium-sized companies, they have been the front runners in picking up this new segments and innovations of working, especially from the DevOps perspective. And there's absolutely the difference is very less. No matter where you are, whether a large scale or a pre-startup or a startup, you can still see this practice being embraced. So if this is the case, what sets the base here is this is going to be our future. That's pretty much known. It's not like, okay, it has come today and this will vanish tomorrow, so I need not have to spend my time for this. That's not the case. So there's a solid base for us to understand this is where the digital trend is going. So if this is a digital trend is going, then I have to catch up with this. So now I am trying to set the base right here for the further talk that I'm trying to take you guys along with me. So we have few answers. There is multiple answers I can give you for the next 1 hour, but I want to keep the top 4 answers why you should embrace yourself into the CI routine, and how much part of it that you have to utilize or just restrict yourself to and not get deep dived unless and until you make it as your career choice. The first one being the QE role is evolving. I remember 15 years back when I started, the role was very limited, the expectation was limited, and the challenges was also equally limited. And it was mostly a waterfall way of working. But as and when the year passed, the practices, the innovations, the processes, technologies have been evolving. So the role has also grown. The challenge is multifold now. When it comes to the skill set, it is also multifold. It's so when the role is evolving, you also have to evolve. When you have chosen that as part of your career progression, then you should also evolve. So if you have to evolve, you have to embrace what's coming your way. The second thing is a coexistence with the ops is very important. I have seen in many teams when I have been leading or helping them, absolutely don't know what the ops does, and they don't know how to make use of the ops to make the test code better or efficient. A part of QE role evolving also comes with bringing in an efficiency along with you. So if you can be efficient, if you know how you can coexist with the operations that's there. But if the idea is, no, I'm going to do my code alone, my test code is going to stay away from my application repo, and I don't have to much bother about because my code doesn't get deployed, then I think it's a kind of a thought that you have to arrest and to stop yourself and think something beyond. Let's also see why, because I'll take one example of Gitlab, and then we'll see how this entire setup can be done for the self-learning perspective. The third one is a reduce the dependency. So if you're in a resource-rich organization, the top tier companies, where all it takes is a service ticket to get the things done for you. But if you're in the other side of the ship, where it's a startup or a small or medium-sized companies, where pretty much you have to wear every hat to get the job done, then you should be well informed. In either of these cases, without knowing what you want, the job will not get done. Whether it's creating a service ticket or you putting your hands yourself and doing the job, if you don't know, there is no way that we can get things done, correct? So at least to reduce that sort of dependency, it is important that we understand these operations and also what we want, how much of these operations is useful for us. This understanding is very important. The last thing, like I said, this is a logical career branch out for most of the QEs. I have been questioned time and again that I do not want to continue in testing, not because I'm bored, but because I want to explore something more. What is a logical and easy option that I can do it? Now, because if you're into the role of testing and the next logical move has been taking up automation and you have been doing automation, it pretty much means you're into this pond of operations and then at least hearing or seeing the tools being used, correct? So improve the curiosity, try to pick up one other tool and try to dive deep. And logically, you can move into this career of DevOps, and maybe you can chase becoming an SRE or an entire DevOps setup guy or girl, whatever it is. So it is logically a good career branch out. So for all these reasons, good reasons, we should actually be diving into this CI practices. And hopefully this is the last slide. If not, oh no. So this is, so well, like I said, when we do the CI, it throws us with a lot of options, and we have many tools available in the market, and we'll also be questioned and challenged with which one to go ahead. Like you see through the numbers, Jenkins have been a market leader for long. They have the market share of 44% overall, and then it is followed by GitLab with 39% and Travis, which is 26%. Rest all the tools comes with a lesser market share. However, irrespective of which tool you're using, it is important that you understand the concept and the concept pretty much remains the same irrespective of which tool you take. Some tools gives you something served in a silver platter, while some other may need you to do and use your brains a little more. Like for example, Jenkins. Jenkins is not an easy CI tool, which can be used by everybody. It needs a lot of thinking. You have to understand plugins. You have to understand how an open source works. There's a lot more theatrics involved when it comes to Jenkins. But however, GitLab made things a lot more easier for the user. You have an interface. There is a good documentation. You can interact with this. You understand what's happening. Because of this, GitLab has been the next logical choice for most of the companies and the teams to embrace GitLab, and then follows the story with all the other tools. Now we have circleCI, Travis, all these are the new tools which has come in the market. And as and when the new tools are coming, they are having the old concepts, but they are also trying to make things more easier by having a good UI connectivity, understandable user interface so that it's easier for you to understand. So for the further talks, I'll be picking up GitLab simply because it's the next thing in the market if you keep Jenkins aside. So it's a good thing to take. Whenever we choose something to learn, it's always nice to see what's the digital trend out there in the market and then choose the tool accordingly so that you don't miss out on where the industry is moving, and you still can be part of it and get the offers. Or if you're planning for a career change or team change, it can build a good profile if you have caught up on the next latest trend that is available. So let's keep Jenkins apart and stick to GitLab. If we still have time, I also would like to take you towards TeamCity. So, but let's start with the GitLab. This is just so you know, because I'll be speaking about GitLab and TeamCity. This is nowhere to say that please use GitLab and ditch TeamCity. That's not the intention of this slide. Here, just to say, though both are CI tools, and connecting back to the point that some comes with a silver platter served and some have their own challenges or some reserved functionality or features. That's all what this takeaway should be from here. And neither I am saying companies should go for GitLab. By and large, if you're a QE or an automation tester, I pretty much understand you have no say when it comes to what tools we have to take up within the team, unless you're the boss of the company. But this is just to say GitLab comes with many features inbuilt already, so which makes your life easier to understand the concepts. Okay, that's the end of the slide, like I promised. But then I will take you next to the GitLab. So GitLab gives a free 400 minutes of the pipeline that you can use, and you can set up your own runner. Which should be local to your system. Usually in a company setup, there will be servers installed, or they may have Dockers installed in some servers, and then they instantiate the runners, and then they provide these runners for you to build the code. Now there's a lot of jargons and keywords for people who will be starting CI for the first time. So let me break it down for you to make it a little more easier. Any CI tool that you take in the market, there are three pillars that is important. One being your code. So you have to place your code somewhere, which we call it as a repository. The second thing is the compiler. So which is pretty much known when you have a code written in particular language, you need a compiler to understand it and build it. And the last one being, runner or an agent. To club these two and make things run, for the solution can be pulled up, and you can see you need something to put things together, correct? So that's what we call it as a runner. So it's a code, compiler, and then a runner. Now, runner, is it a common word across all the tools? No. Some use the keyword called agent, while some use the keyword called runner, and there may be some more out there in the market. But irrespective of what the naming is, the job is just to put things together, make sense of it, and make your solution work. That's all the job is. So in GitLab, the advantage is you don't have to run around to find a place where you can place a code. GitLab provides its own repository where you can place a code. So you can just simply come here, create your own project, new project, clone this project into your local, add in details, push. So all the Git activities, whatever you do, it's pretty much common here in GitLab as well. It's not different. So this is what I have tried to create a project. But creating a project is not a challenge in any of these tools. What's the challenge is coming up with an agent or a runner. So like I said, you have a repository, you have a compiler, which is pretty straightforward, but setting up this agent is kind of can get tricky. So how and where you have to start. So when I was there, if I were you, I simply go for the GitLab documentation. This is what I do. I do GitLab runner setup, and then I come here to see they have a wonderful documentation. You can set up runner in various format, in various machines, but because mine is Mac, I simply go there. But if you want to do it, if you're good in Docker or Kubernetes and you understand the concept already, I would highly recommend go for that, because it will become operating system agnostic, any system agnostic. But if you're starting for first and you want to understand this entire CI process and do a pet project, then choose either Windows or Mac, depending on what you're using, and just follow every single step that they have mentioned here as a part of their instruction. This is more than enough. Do not deviate. Do not go to Stack Overflow. Don't do such things. Just execute in its pattern that they have given, and you should be able to set up the runner. In my case, because it is a Mac and I go for the Homebrew installation, Homebrew is another package which can be installed as a part of your NPM. And when you have the brew already set up, you can just do brew, install GitLab runner, and it installs the runner into my local machine. And you just have to start the service. So whatever installed as a part of your operating system becomes a part of the service of the OS. And you have to start this service by giving this command. That's all we have to do. Now, let me take you to the terminal. And if you see, I have already started the GitLab runner by using the brew. But what I'll do is, just to keep things simple, I will stop it for now. So you see, right now my system is acting as a server as well as a client, simply because I have the runner installed in my local machine. The other way I can do is also install Docker. container and then install the runner as a part of it. But like I said, it gets more complex and it will not help people who are starting up for the first time. So to keep things simple, I have installed it in my local system. So I have stopped the runner. So if I have to start the runner, basically I just have to simply do start. Is this all what it takes, or is it something more beyond this? Yes, you have just installed the runner. You have done nothing more than that. And you have started the runner, which is good. But at some point, you have to tell GitLab that, hey, boss, I have installed the runner, and please make use of that runner when you want to run my code. So if you have to do that, you would have created a project, which is the first thing, basic thing that is required. Come to the settings, go to the CI/CD, because this concept is relevant to the CI/CD. So logically, you have to go to CI/CD. You have something called runners. So when you expand in here, you would get a bunch of things that's displayed. Don't get overwhelmed by what you see. Simply disable the shared runners, because shared runner is a concept where one can install a runner on a server and multiple people, whoever is involved in an organization, can make use of this runner to run their code. But in our case, that's not the thing. In our case, my machine is acting as a server and I am the only person who's consuming it. So it makes more logical to stop this shared runner and install my own runner. So what I do, they have given the installation. Like I said, for every system, there is command. Don't execute this. This is not required. What you have to do is this part. Likewise, for the Windows, they would have given how to instantiate a runner and link it to your GitLab project. So because I'm using Mac, I simply copy paste this into my terminal and I give the registration token. What is a registration token? You can see it here. This is the registration token. Can you refresh this, or is it constant? You can refresh this always. If you see something has broken and something is not working, you can reset the registration token, copy this token and paste it here and run it in the terminal. So now when you do that, ideally, you should be able to see the runner being connected to the GitLab. So this is my client, this is my server, my operating system, my system itself is a server, and it's pretty much connected the GitLab to the runner. Awesome. So we have the code and the repository in place. Check. We have the compiler. No, I'll come back to that. But do we have the runner? Yes. So we have two things done. Now we have to see for the middle one, which is the compiler. So now this is up and running. Cool. I'll keep this up and running. One other part I would like to see, if it is not green, that pretty much gives you an information that it is not healthy. The runner is not running. Either if it shows yellow or if it shows gray, that simply means there is something wrong. So try to run your installation again. That can be one of the case that you have not registered, or it can be the case you have not started the runner. In that case, it can also go gray. So try and redo the steps and refresh the screen, most importantly, and you should be able to see the green. So it's as easy to set up a runner in your local machine. Cool. So we are good now. Now coming to the part of compiling. So in GitLab, there is every framework or every tool should have one anchor element which can tell you will be doing this job and you will be doing this job. So there is an anchor for every tool, correct? Likewise, for this entire setup that we are doing, YAML is a file which is an anchor. Before anything happens, the tool will be checking for the presence of this file. So this is called as a configuration for this entire DevOps setup that you're planning to do. Is it the same for all the tools? No. Some will go for the Go, some will have some other programming language. Some uses grep. I don't know. So I'm thinking loud here. So, but for GitLab, it's been YAML file. And when you go here, you pretty much can see everything looks a little cryptic, but it is not. It is not as cryptic as it looks. Let's break it down for you. The first thing is being the stages, where you have to tell how many stages you want. I have seen teams having just 2 stages to as many as 10 stages. Is there a rule that we have to take care when we build stages? Now, this is not inherent part of your job responsibility where you have to see how many stages you want. But by and large, you can see almost in all development teams, you should have a build pipeline, you have a test pipeline, and the deployment pipeline. So this is pretty much common, but it can grow more than this as well. So the first thing is to tell how many stages of work you have to build this code. So I have 3. Cool. Then we can mention about the cache. Cache is nothing but I am using a JavaScript, Cypress IO as my test code. So if I have to build my code, I have a dependency on Node.js, on the NPM packages. So I want these Node modules to be installed because that is a bedrock. And on top of that is when I can build my test code. If that is the understanding, then first I have to install the Node modules. Every time you run the CI, if you have to go and install the Node modules, that's a heck of a task. And it's a lot of memory wastage. So that's the reason why we make use of a cache. So it holds an instance of this and makes this available for you each time you run your code so that you don't have to do the reinstallation every time you kick off. It makes you run much faster. And then is when you have to start elaborating each of these stages, what you should be doing in the build, what you should be doing in the test, and what should happen in deploy. Build and deploy is pretty much not something that comes under your purview. Like I said, unless you're starting in a startup company and you have pretty much on your shoulders, you have to do everything. That's not something that comes to you. But if you are just an automation tester or a manual tester foraying into automation, this is an important step for you. And sometimes this don't even exist in so many companies as far as I know. And that is why it is important for you to understand if this doesn't exist as a part of your automation, learn how you can add it all by yourself, reducing and killing the dependency altogether and bumping up the quality activities within the team. So I have just named as E2E test. You can absolutely name anything. You can also say it as TTT tests. That's also possible. Any name, absolutely. And this is an image. So basically, you are telling where this code has to be built. I am making use of Cypress Docker image, and I'm telling, please make use of this image whenever you're running my tests. Why should I do this? And is it constant for all the test frameworks? No. So we use Docker simply because to be system agnostic, like I said. And they may be using a specific OS in mind while coding, and then I may be having some other OS backed up while I'm running my test. So to avoid all this confusion, if we rather choose Docker and be agnostic with any of these platforms, the code will simply build. And that's exactly what I'm trying to do here. And in what stage will this represent? Of course, it's a test stage. And then is a script, which tells you what exactly you should be doing. Now, if you're saying, what is this? Why is her script so long? What is actually happening here? Give me a moment. I'll come to this part. It's also part of this CI setup that I have done. Then comes the artifacts. Artifacts are nothing but or any file or anything that you would have generated as a part of your build, and you want to save it. Mostly it can be your screenshots, reports. It can be any of these things, or some output that you would have generated and you want to keep it. So all these are part of your artifacts. Is it important that you have to mention artifacts? No, it is optional. Is it important that I mention the script? Yes, it is, because that is what is triggering your test to run. So script is not optional. Script should be there. Is artifacts optional? Yes. If you want, you keep it. If you see there is no artifacts, you're not much worried about any reports that will be generated, screenshots or videos, just skip it. Just kill it. But for the stock purpose, I have shown artifacts. By and large, most of the team will use. Even the build pipeline makes use of artifacts. And this is of no use for me. I am not generating any JUnits results or anything. But I have seen if you use Selenium, you may come up with different reports that gets generated as a part of your build. Kind of, you can mention here where it should be saved and how long it should be saved. I say everything should expire within a week, which means it automatically gets deleted after a week. You can even keep it a day or a month, depends on the usage. And then is a deploy. Like I said, this doesn't come under your purview, but it's good to know. Deploy is either you can move the code from one environment to another, from your develop environment to the test to stage to production. Some may even have pre-production and then production. That sounds absurd, but companies and teams I have seen having multiple test environments and deploying the code one after the other. So this is the YAML file, like I said, which is the configuration file. I'm trying to rush because there is a very less time in here. Can you edit this pipeline right here? Yes, you can. But when you do it, just ensure you pull this code to your local so that your local code is also updated. And again, don't land up having this, clash issues with regards to code, and then you have to solve it. That's another set of a headache, which I guess you don't want. Cool. So we spoke about this, and where can I know about YAML? So simply Google. That's what I do. I just go for YAML, and there are many YAML validators that is available. You can simply choose. This is called linting. Copy paste the entire thing to see if you have used if you have used the correct notation or not. One thing is very important is the indentation in here. If the indentation is not right, it may not work. This is wrong. So YAML is a very tight knit when it comes to indentation. So try and follow the spaces as neat as possible. And such linting tools will help you to find out what the issue is and how you can resolve these issues. While Gitlab also provides you to do linting. So let me not take more time in this YAML file. So I have created this YAML file. How can I create this? Either I can clone this project into my local, create a file, name it as .gitlab-ci.yaml, or I can simply use the web ID, create a new file in here, and then pull the code to my local ID. In either ways, it's possible. Now, I want to draw your attention towards your test code. Like I said, I am making use of Cypress, and this is a very simple test script that I have written. I understand most of you may not relate to Cypress, and you would have come from the different test framework or architecture background. But the whole concept that I want to talk with you is with regards to how to implement and a strategy perspective rather than the code itself. It's not about the code or the tool, but itself about how you have to take your approach. Now we have our repo, we have the compiler setup, and we have the runner setup. We are good from the CI perspective. We can push the code, and we are good. But one other thing you have to understand, when we push the code, what actually happens? It executes exactly what you have mentioned here. So first it executes build, next it executes step, next it executes deploy, which we will see in the next few minutes. So here, if you see, the one thing I want to draw your attention is not many understands that you have to fall back on this environment, which is your CI environment, and leverage its benefit. One of the benefits is in GitLab, if you go here and go to the, I guess it is CI/CD, sorry. You have something called variables. Not many are actually using. There is many theory out in the market where I have seen some people proposing, do not use environment variables. It is so difficult and it makes your code complex. No, it exists for a reason, and we have to make use of this. Simply because I am so confident in showing you here, simply because I know my parameters are masked, though there are passwords being there, though there are some URLs being used. I'm pretty sure that this is safe with me because this is a private project. You go and search for this, you may not find it. So this is a whole reason behind it, is security. When we build the code, though this code is not getting deployed to the production, the idea is to keep the artifacts of the company safe, and not any Tom, Dick, and Harry who walks in and get access to the code should be able to see everything. Whether you're using Selenium or you're using Cypress or a WebDriver IO, make use of these masked and protected variables that is available in your CI environment, which helps you to avoid giving any such thing anywhere in your code. So let me show you in my login screen. Where is my login screen? Okay. So in Cypress, this is a place where we do the before each. Basically, it's a hook, and then you have to log in. Lytho is my company, and we have our own environment test setup. And this environment is in two places. One is in EU and one is in US. We have two different servers, and both The application is hosted in both these places. So when we deploy the code, a tester's challenge is to test in both these locations. I have one tester and I have to split his time or her time on both these locations. It makes no sense for me, where if he sits and keep doing the same task in two different locations. So that's the whole reason why we are leveraging automation here, correct? Now, as a part of that, though it is on the two different places, my code is just one to log in. Irrespective of where I'm triggering this code should work. And the second thing, the username and password I have masked. You can check anywhere in my code. You wouldn't come across this simply because I have stored it as a part of my environment variable. And I am pretty sure this code will be saved, will be secure, sorry. So what I am doing here before each is simply kicking off the test with the username and password, logging in, and then it goes for my test here, and then it does some tests. Don't worry about the syntax. It's not the part of this call at all, but it does some tests after this login. So now in the JavaScript syntax, it is easier for me to just declare a detail, which is an object called a detail, and I'm filling in something called a username and a password, and this is available, and I'm just adding it or filling it in the field. This is cool, but where is this being even picked up from? How will I even get from the GitLab to my code, and how will it even know? Correct? This is the usual question. Remember, we have the configuration file, and that's what is gonna tell what should happen when. Correct? Let me take you here back to the configuration file, and then to the YAML. Remember, anything and everything that happens should happen here. So if there's anything that you want to check, this is a place you want to come and check what's happening. So what we are executing here is our test. We are not worried about build nor about deploy. So logically, it is test. Cool. Is it about image that I have to bother? No, that's not executing my test. What is it doing? Script. So in the script, this simply says npm CI. This is some installations right through from my cache. It runs and then it keeps things ready. The foundation is set up, and here is where you see my URL is declared, my username is declared, my password is declared. Simply because I am pulling all these details from the environment variable that I have set up, and I have made it a lot more secure for people who are seeing this, who didn't get this information firsthand. Unless you have right authorizations for your CI server, you will not be able to find this information anywhere, even in the projects. If you don't have the right authorization, you will not be even able to see the environment variables. It will be masked, it will be protected. That's the whole idea of it. Is it only for the username and password can I use? No, you also have an option for file. So if you are testing some customer related or a checkout process or a bank details you want to save, you want to save some important product code details which no one else should know. All these are the things which you have to offload it onto your CI server tool rather than to your code. The code should not be holding any of these. It's not secure. And each time you want to share the code or push the code, you have to specifically keep in mind to erase all these details and then push so that nobody else sees your username and password, isn't it? I think many of you would relate to me here to this problem. So just evade it by making use of your CI server tool. This is the command which kicks off my test. So for my test to run, I have to give a username and a password, and also I have to say which URL I have to do. I have two places where my application is running. It can be US and EU. So I basically first run for the US, and then I can run for the EU. Is it synchronous here, one after the other? Yes. Can I make it parallel? Yes, you can. So that is, again, it's a further advanced concept. I have not added it mindfully so that I don't want to confuse you. Cool. So this is what I have done, and I have offloaded. Now, the other thing I want to importantly share is the collaboration. I hope we are good until here, and you understood the first advantage of understanding the CI aspect of it and how to leverage it. And I hope it's fine till here. So now I will go to the case where you will be working in the scaled agile teams, correct? You may have 6 scrum teams, 2 testers in each team. You have an interlap or overlap of some responsibilities of testing and code. you kind of assume, okay, that guy will put the code and I don't have to worry. But that guy will see, because it is getting triggered from that guy's screen, he will do it. I don't have to worry. There's so much confusion. There is no collaboration. Yes, in this case, then let's make use of Jira. Let's create a separate epic. We will put in the tasks. We will tell who will work on what, and then we will do the automation. And it never works. Trust me. In these more than decade and a half, 15 years, I have not seen Jira work for the QE team better for collaboration. If there is any team who's making use of the automation work, making use of Jira, kudos, take a kudos from me, 3 cheers for you. But from my personal experience, I have not seen it. So in such cases, possibly you can make use of the board or the list that comes here. You can create a specific tasks and give the tags for that. If you have 6 teams, all these 6 teams will be logically divided either based on screens or functionalities or components or APIs, I don't know, or services. It can be anything. So logically it is divided. When you have divided, create the tags accordingly, come up with the tasks that have to be done, create those tasks in here, and just provide more details what it has to be done. Here, one simple example I have given where I'm telling you have to create a collection and you have to see if the collection is getting created or not. That's what this test is all about, and just assign to the person who has to do it. And like all other workflow tools, this also have yet to start, mark as done, completed, add to do. I mean, you have all the workflow details in here. This helps in a better collaboration with a wider team, especially when you're working in the scaled agile team. Okay, Sowmya, you told about scaled agile team. What about I am the only person in my team? I have only 2 Scrum teams and I'm the only tester. Will this even help? Yes, it does help you to guide you with some discipline and structure, and you will be able to understand, if I have to build up an entire framework, I have to nibble one thing at a time and not entire thing. So what should be my first thing I have to start with? What should I set up first and what I have to add? And then you can build on the story accordingly. This also helps you to show the wider team and the stakeholders your progress about the work. If they say, what is the coverage? Where are we? What is our plan to go further? It's any team leaders or the manager's question that comes out pretty naturally. So in that case, you can come here, show them this list and say, you know what, this much I have completed. This is what I have to do, blah, 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 and build your story. It's a lot more disciplined in its way. You also have a board look.
Sowmya, sorry to interrupt. You have 5 minutes.
Yeah, okay, cool. So I will rush through. So this is the place where you can come and see all the boards and do it. I do have a lot to show about in TeamCity as well, but before I jump in there, I want to take you to the schedule, which is nightly builds. This is very important. I have not seen many teams make use of the nightly builds, or teams who are using, they make wrong use of the nightly builds. Nightly builds are meant for the organizations where there is commit happens every few minutes or every few hours. In that case, if the commit is happening every few minutes and hours, you don't have the luxury to execute all the 300 tests for the 50 lines of code that I'm committing. That is wrong. I have seen teams where they do that. They have 350 tests running for every simple commit. So every commit is taking anywhere between 1 and 1.5 hours, and how many agents and runners do you want to do this? It's not logical. It's not good. So the ideal way to achieve this is come up with a top 20 or 25 process integration or the user flows, the most important touch points that the user goes through in his day-to-day life or in your solution, and try to have an end-to-end test only for these user flows, and keep it and trigger this every time there's a code commit, so that you know this important aspect of the business is untouched and it's just working as is. And then leverage the nightly builds like this, where you can kick off the entire 350 tests to see all the commits that has happened over in the day. I am checking comprehensively the entire flow. It can be, your test can be broken down, like each function you can try to put all the scenarios, or you can try to build on the process integration user flows as long or as wide as you want. But this is the main idea behind the nightly builds. Either it's not used or it's used very wrongly. So let's arrest that. Let's understand why we need this. And this entire nightly build works on the cron job. It's nothing but it will give you star, 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 where each thing mentions something. Just to keep users' life simple, GitLab provides you something already. So you can choose one among this. It simply says every week, Friday at 10 p.m., trigger my code, whether I'm there or not, whether I'm a holiday or not, it's just going to trigger and then check. But if you're running in the develop environment, like I said, there is a commit happening every now and then, and you have to check the health of the system and pretty much kick off every day. Time is not the matter. Name is just nightly. You can even kick off in the morning if that works better for you. And all these are generic information. Again, you can see there's a variable and we have variables being declared. So if you see that you need it for some other way or some other way of execution, then you can still make use of the variables in here and it automatically picks up the value. So just by knowing this tool, you know how to make use of so many other wider aspects of the test automation and make your code a lot more efficient, and you can make your work also to be more effective. So that's why it is important that you have to know about the CI tools. Now I have last 2 minutes. So what I'll do, I'll take you to the TeamCity, where again I have created a simple project thanks to my company to giving me this access. So it's very sweet of them. I can show you. This is a simple project. Like again, can I create an agent and run it in my local system for TeamCity? Yes, you can do. Is it difficult? No, it's not. Can I get materials outside where I can do? Yes, there is a lot of YouTube videos, and also the documentation is very good, where if you want to run the TeamCity and then run the entire pipeline. Again, create a simple project in here. I have made use of the parameters of the environment variable. Let me take to the project directly. And then you can see I have set up my own pipeline. So when I have set up my pipeline, you can see something called edit configuration. So in my initial few things failed. Of course, when you're trying for the first time, you will fail. That's expected. Stick on. And then go to the edit configuration. Here is a place where you can give all the information that I showed you in the GitLab. You have similar thing. The only difference between the GitLab and TeamCity is a little sweetheart. It pretty much gives you a form for everything. So you can read and you know and you understand and you better connect. But one downside of TeamCity is they don't have their own repo. So here I am trying to pull the code from the GitLab repository and building here. So what this tool helps you with is only build and deploy. It will not provide you with a repository to exclusively save your projects. No, you may, if you're using TeamCity, either you will be using Bitbucket or GitHub or GitLab or any such tools to store your code and then pull in this code whenever there is the code merge that is happening. So this is pretty straightforward. What I also wanted to show you is the trigger. Let me do that before I stop talking. So like I said, this is my code. Let me add simple comment because I just wanted to show you how to trigger the pipeline. I will do git status to know what I have changed, of course, and then git add, then git commit. Should I have to do everything one at a time? No, you can club the commands, but I am trying to do one at a time. Again, just to keep things simple, I am committing this code with the commit -m message. It is committed, but then I have to push. I am pretty much sure I have to push everything that I have made changes, so it will do. I have not set up the SSH, so it will ask me for the username and password. Okay. Usually happens, right? Password it's asking. Okay. I'll give one last push. If not, something is not working. Yeah, it usually happens. Okay, cool. So I could save my face in this call. So I have pushed When I have pushed the code, just ensure your GitLab runner is up and running. Otherwise, your code will not build. So let me go here. Because it is running locally in my system, you can see this Cypress little thing is jumping. But if this is being run in some other server, you wouldn't see this happening, which is okay. I basically have to come to the pipeline and see if the pipeline is triggered or not. Cool, my pipeline is triggered. I see the build stage has passed. I simply go, because it's a simple comment. I'm sorry. I'll just go in here to see how my pipeline is running. Build is success. Test is running. And you can go and see what is happening actually in the test. You can see it's installing npm CI, and then it goes to the next command, and then it executes the test. So pretty much you will be able to gain some confidence that I understand this process if you start with GitLab, but don't restrict yourself here. Try to expand your information as much possible. But if you're very serious about branching out as a DevOps engineer, then it's a good place to start and continue. Great. So this will take a little time to build, but let's refresh and see. Cool. Something failed in my search, which is good. At least it's letting me know the build didn't go through. There's an error, which is good. And I can come here, change my code, do a recommit, and see if everything is again working fine or not, and push the code.